As I look back and as time marches on, and as our members seem to diminish each year, I realize that I'd better get this story together while there's still some people alive who might remember. The story's about the homecoming floats and the people behind them, but it's not just about the floats. I was president of TEAC in 1967 and graduated in 1968. We had 4 really great years, but the demise of Parsons was on its way, and it turned out that it was unstoppable. However, I must add that although the institution would die, the friendships and the lifelong lessons would live on. Here's something that was taken from the Parsons College yearbook. It reads, "Parsons College has one of the largest homecoming parades in the state of Iowa. Tau Kappa Epsilon has captured homecoming honors for its house decorations or float every year since 1949. I didn't think of it then, but I do now. For almost 50 years, TEAC continued to take the #1 slot. That's more than a tradition. It was a cherished legacy, and it took continual work and dedication and rebirth to enable it to happen. That dedication is found in the fraternity's credo, which is not for wealth, rank, or honor, but for personal worth and character. Now, TEAC was big and did big things. It was not good because it was big. It was big because it was good. And now back to the yearbook. It went on to say that all the men cooperating and working together was the major reason for the success of the TEAC's rendition of Cinderella's midnight change into the wonderful world of fantasy as this past fall's homecoming theme. Big and good meant, and still mean, being diverse. And we had scholars and jocks and people of color and Jews and Catholics and Protestants and agnostics. Remember, this was the time of Vietnam, and we had those for and those against, and we had hippies and right-wingers, and we had guys who built floats and those who could have cared less, except when they were needed by the rest. With over 80 active members, this big group did things in a big way. Before we go into the floats, I must mention Greek Week. Held in the spring, it involved a chariot race pulled by fraternity brothers, a parade involving beautiful women in elaborate handmade chariots. And here's an early chariot, and then what they became. Back to the floats. They were big. The aircraft carrier was 68 feet long, had little airplanes with sorority girls in them as pilots to go along with the theme Expect an Aerial Attack, and the house decoration was an airplane also. Remember, everything is covered in chicken wire, stuffed with napkins, and then painted to add color to the texture. The only way to stuff all the napkins into the chicken wire to cover the frame and look like the roses from the Rose Parade was to engage all the TEACs and the ladies of a sorority. This year, the TEACs worked with Alpha Gamma Delta. Doing things in a big way required organizational talents and ingenuity. Jim Neal, the master float builder and fraternity president, had to overcome the problem of navigating something about 70 feet long through the streets of Fairfield, Iowa. The foundation of the aircraft carrier float served as the foundation for the next 3 years. Jim's contribution took 2 automobile frames, cut the backs off about where the trunks would have been, and then hooked the 2 front ends together with 2 utility poles. This provided steering capabilities at both ends like a fire engine. Brilliant. Taken from the Fairfield Times, the article says perhaps the most elaborate entry was the Cinderella float built by Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity and the Alpha Xi Delta sorority. It depicted Cinderella in all her glory, riding in a golden chariot pulled by 6 black horses. A large clock provided the background as the huge float pulled up in front of the judges' stand at the northeast corner of the square. It halted momentarily and the clock struck 12. A huge pumpkin slowly enclosed the carriage. The 6 horses disappeared and 6 mice took their place. Now, take a minute or two to watch a video of the actual happening. How do you move them without the inappropriate sound of a farm tractor pulling it? Well, you have 50 to 65 men push it uphill, downhill, around corners, and everything else. So to do big, you got to be big. The organizational skills and teamwork needed to build any of these floats, even going back to 1949, was the hallmark of teak. In this year, the architects and builders were called the Magnificent Seven, since there were 7 of them, but they were just the tip of the spear. They created the desire to win, and they celebrated their victory. Mike Rapp. Tom James. Bob Cubberly. Tom Warnock. Jim Neal. Rick Bushnell. And Tom Eastland.